And we are live. Hello and welcome to Ishi's Great Big Alien Show. It's big, it's great, it's about aliens. And tonight we are also covering cryptids. Sitting beside me is the ever lovely and luscious.
The night editor, Kat Rocha. Hello, everyone.
And yes, tonight we're going to cover a number of fun topics. As I said, cryptids are the main subject of the matter. We're going to talk a bit about the El Chupacabra.
The goat sucker.
Yes, Mothman, and a few other things. Now, while I'm not a cryptid expert myself, I am an alien. Kat has a thing for cryptids.
I love cryptids. Also, isn't there a metal band named Chupacabra?
Fuck, I don't know, probably.
I think there is, actually.
So just to get things going, before we get down to business, we're going to read another one of your true stories of UFO encounters. This one comes to us from Trenton Arney, I believe.
Correct.
And let's hear this one.
Excuse me. Last year, around this same time, I was outside walking my 6-year-old pup, waiting for her to poop. I love that. That's the best opening line
I'm already
ever.
taking it seriously.
Yes. I love that. I am engaged. You have action and you have drama.
And mystery.
And mystery, yes.
Okay, supposedly they're true. I don't know. I think the last one that we got seriously was a true story from somebody.
The sun had just set below the horizon, but because of the clouds on the western horizon and clear skies above me, it was still pretty bright because of the lighter scatter. There was a fair bit of plane traffic above, about 3 to 4 planes moving along the east-west axis. Then I noticed a blinking light about 15 degrees off north. Thought that was weird. Planes don't normally fly along the route unless it's a helicopter on an emergency run. Let my dog run around on her 15-foot leash for a few moments and looked up, but the lights had gotten slightly brighter. When it's one of the medvac flights by this time, there should be rotor noises, but it was quiet. So I stopped and just stared, watching this light. It got closer and a little bigger. Then it stopped altogether and the color and shape started to change. It hovered for about 4 minutes. Just to remind you, helicopters can be heard by this point and airplanes would cross the horizon by this point. At this time, it was getting dark enough on the eastern horizon to see some stars in the sky. The western sky was still a little light because of the clouds in that direction. The craft then seemed to pitch forward, and the white line appeared on the bottom of the top 3/4, shifted from an orange to red, and it started moving to the east over my hometown. The speed seemed to be slower than a normal winged aircraft, for it took another 2 minutes to get to the east, about 20 to 25 degrees off the horizon. The UFO then hovered again for several minutes, and it looked like smaller lights came out of it. However, I can't be certain because of the stars blinking in that part of the sky, but the craft was still very distinct. The white light had disappeared when it started hovering again. Then it seemed to tilt a tiny bit. At this time, the craft was too far away, so it appeared as the top half red and the bottom white again. The red was quickly eclipsed by the white line. It then took off rapidly. This reminded me of the Millennium Falcon going to light speed. Just this white line that disappeared to a point and was gone. I'm reminded of Flight of the Navigator. It only took 5 seconds versus the near instantaneous transit of Star Wars. Anyway, that was my sighting. If I had known it was going to last that long, I would have tried to film it and get someone in the house out to witness it. But I couldn't yell out, and I didn't want to for fear it would leave sooner and everyone might think I was crazy, or more crazy than I am known for already. It was amazing for me.
Okay, so speaking from my years of research and being an actual gray myself, I can tell you that what you saw was Venus crossing past a weather balloon while swamp gas was jetting up.
Yes.
So that's exactly what it was. So now you know.
Along with the aurora.
Yeah.
It was a very southerly aurora.
You saw Venus crossing a weather balloon during swamp gas.
Yes.
That's all there is to it. Now, for those of what?
So how much did the Mibs pay you to say that?
About $3.50.
Oh, where's my cut?
So as you know, actually, yeah, I've encouraged you to send real UFO sightings to me, but if you want to make something up, that's just as good.
We can play is it or is it not real?
Well, no, I mean, the fact of the matter is there has been aerial phenomena that we really don't understand. In this day and age, I hate to say it, but drones have made it nigh impossible anymore to identify what is something truly odd in the sky and somebody with a drone or two.
Mm-hmm.
Which does make it a bit difficult, but there have been a few, like the daylight sighting in the early 2000s over New York that was thoroughly bizarre. I mean, I have a few theories what that was, but that's for another time. But before we get any further, I must remind you that at this point, the act falls. I take the human suit off. I stopped pretending to be a skeptic who doesn't take any of this stuff seriously, and we speak the truth, the absolute truth.
The truth is out there.
Yes, that I actually am a 4-foot tall gray that pilots a human suit and lives among you for reasons.
See, he's even got that I want to believe poster, but instead it says "Pimp My Ride."
You know, that might sell, actually. So before we go any further, let's get to the shilling. Well, wrong one. That was last week. If you haven't yet picked up my book, Scars, for only 99 cents, which falls somewhere in between A Boy and His Dog, The Rats from Nim, in a setting that very well could be James Corey's The Expanse, I would highly encourage you all to go over to Amazon.com, type in my name, J.Ishiro, and consider purchasing the book. It's, again, only 99 cents. It's a novella. And it's heavily inspired by a lot of my own true experiences with post-traumatic stress and some of my experiences owning a rat, but it's very much a hard science fiction story. And it's been doing pretty well. And if you have already read the book and haven't left a review, please leave a review. That's actually more important than the purchase itself. Okay, now back to the real show.
Back to the show. And
so,
we're back.
Anyway, we're going to be talking about a few things tonight, primarily cryptids.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you wanted to talk to me first. You had some questions about the Chupacabra.
Well, yeah. I do know that part of the legend of the Chupacabra is that it's actually, one of your cousins.
Okay, if you'll notice from the drawings and the so-called photos and various artist renderings of the Chupacabra, although they've changed in recent years, for quite a long time, there definitely was a resemblance to my people, the Greys. Yes.
I know way back in, the long days of watching sightings in the 90s, that's exactly what it looked like.
And didn't sighting themselves claim that it possibly was a subspecies or an experiment?
The episode that I saw when they brought up the alien Chupacabra crossover was that it had been either a human alien hybrid or an alien animal hybrid that had gone nuts. It also reminds me of one of the creepypasta creatures.
Well, I'm going to ruin it for you. It's far less interesting than that.
Yeah.
I mean, if only it were some sort of experiment gone wrong. But in fact, no, it's just Walter. Walter. Unfortunately, my species is not immune to headmates and animal kin and all that other stupid shit you guys are dealing with. And back in the 90s.
I'm a star.
Yeah, exactly. Back in the 90s, well, Walter suddenly took it upon it. He just suddenly got obsessed with coyotes. Suddenly he was convinced, no, even though he was born a gray, that he was actually a coyote.
What, he saw Dances with Wolves and decided to be one with like Mother Nature?
Well, no, just like your animal kin here, but you've got some idiot who thinks he's a deer, right? On Twitch.
True.
And you had that
Very
guy
true.
in Mexico who, or no, he was in San Diego, turned himself into a cat man.
True.
Well,
He's dead now.
Now think about when you have access to the sort of cloning and genetic engineering technology my people have, where that goes. And Walter became obsessed with being a wolf. And one day we were down in Mexico and we had been abducting children and we were returning one of the kids in the middle of the night. And Walter runs off into the bushes and starts howling and, oh boy, I'm a wolf, I'm a coyote. Huh. And he jumps on a goat and starts biting. And, we're all looking at each other and, we don't have to take him back with us. So we didn't. He's off playing coyote. We didn't tell him we were leaving and we just kind of left him in Mexico. And that's the truth. That's it. So every time you hear about, some poor goat being gobbled on, it's just this idiot gray alien who thinks he's a coyote. And
so really all the attacks on the border was him trying to get back to Roswell or at least White Sands so that he can contact you guys?
I don't know. Maybe he's just out there enjoying being a coyote now. So I'm sorry. I mean, it's kind of a letdown, I know.
Well, no, maybe for you, but for us, mere humans, it's fascinating. I mean, you have a gray alien who thinks he's a coyote and spends his time sucking on goats. I mean,
clearly he doesn't understand coyotes very well.
I mean, tell me that that's not like rife for like story writing material there.
Or I suppose some sort of internet documentary on screwed up aliens.
There you go. You need your own, cable TV special.
Or, Walter might end up getting a job at Twitch.
Oh, God.
So.
Nah, from what you were telling, Walter's got too much balls to be on Twitch. Maybe if he had a sex change.
You're right. Walter did not decide he was a female. So we got a question here.
I don't want to see Walter in heat. Okay, with the massive proliferation of cameras in all parts of society over the last 10 years, how are you and the others continuing to avoid detection?
Well, with the mass proliferation of cameras everywhere, we haven't is the problem. I mean, the only saving grace is that drones and other phenomena have covered a lot of it up, and it's made it hard to tell. Like I said, there was the daylight sighting in New York back in the 2000s. There's the continual lights in Sweden. Even further back, there were the Phoenix lights. Mm-hmm. Actually, a lot of phenomena is getting noticed. It's just your skeptics keep writing it off as, oh, that was a Soviet or a Russian missile test that went wrong, or, oh, that's just Elon Musk doing stuff.
Well, he does have his own spaceport.
Right.
So yeah.
There's all sorts of bizarre lights in the sky now, but you think, again, thanks to drones, we can have the mothership come down and release 10, 20 smaller saucers to go out and do stuff, and people in the distance don't know if that's a drone or not.
Very true. Plus, you have your human suit.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's your...
and then, if we really want to spend the money, we've got the Klingon-style cloaking device. Or Romulan, really, but...
Yeah, I was going to say...
they stole it from the Romulans. Or they bought it, I don't remember.
No, I believe they reverse engineered it, and that's why it doesn't work as well. So what's your ship disguised as right now?
I don't have a ship.
You don't? I thought you did.
Nope, I don't. Not anymore. No. I'm stuck here.
What did you pawn it for?
They kind of wanted me to leave, too.
Oh. What, they bought you a ticket and sent you on your way?
They dropped me off for a long-term exploratory mission. I married a woman, and got a little too native.
Oh, okay. So Walter turned into a coyote, and you banged a chick with beautiful tits,
Right.
and that gets both of you the same sentence.
Well, supposedly I'm supposed to collect DNA.
Instead of deposit it.
Well, you notice I keep clippings of your hair and toenails. You notice those keep vanishing.
You notice I've been doing the same to you.
No, I haven't.
That's my insurance, man.
Did you ever notice I take those and I put them all in a jar and I just kind of leave them out in the field every once in a while? Didn't you think that was a little odd?
Aren't they bored with getting just mine over and over again?
I'm not.
Acid trip. Ishi, the gray alien, drinking coffee out of a sippy cup. This shit is what I live for.
So anyway, I've told my cryptid story.
Yes.
Oh,
but from Dandy Spike, but I thought grays didn't have teeth.
Well, yeah, I said, imagine what happens to an animal kin if you've got access to genetic engineering like we do. Walter really screwed with his DNA. Tried to give himself wolf teeth or coyote fangs and fur.
Oh, see, I was picturing.
They keep saying it looks like a weird dog with mange. Well, he didn't do a very good job.
I was picturing Nicolas Cage in Vampire's Kiss, and he's got plastic teeth. Anime acid trip. Walter is just a crazy dude trying to play at being a furry. Straight rainforest up in this bitch. Could have gone the route of Radagast the Brown, but he went to the dark side. Sad, really. Very sad. Very, very sad. Although I wouldn't want birds shitting on me too. Squeaky Pickle, are you into cat because the woman of your species also have huge titties, or are you into her because they don't?
Okay, well, I covered this in the first show, and I think
he's new.
So I'm going to get into this point blank, okay? Yeah, I'm sure we're going to return to this over and over again, and I should probably just do an entire episode on Nordics and tall whites and hybrids. Our species made a lot of mistakes when we got into the genetic engineering. Yeah, we're telepathic, we're really smart, we live a long time, but we made some huge mistakes, and one of them was the females don't look that great. So let me show you something here. On the left is what a female gray looks like. Not all that great. But, after a couple decades of merging DNA with the best in the bustiest of your species, we there have on the right a tall white, as you can see. And by tall, it's kind of weird because it's tall in comparison to us, which meaning she's 5'5". But
taller than some.
So really, this is one of the critical reasons we're here, is that we wanted to get some good stuff engineered back in.
That's more than just some good stuff.
So anyway, we were going to talk a bit about other cryptids. Now, you have a favorite of your own.
I have a couple, actually, but nothing that is so extraterrestrial. Excuse me, as I pull up my computer.
So this would be like semiotic ghosts, perhaps?
No. About a decade ago, I got on this cryptid kick, and I decided I was going to research as many of them as I possibly could. I first researched every lake creature I could find because I found the concept of lake monsters fascinating. And then I moved on to people who really and truly believed that they saw dinosaurs. Jace. Hey, Jace. Grays eat radiation like Gojira. Actually, there is a giant lake turtle, giant lake turtle on the border between Utah and Idaho.
Really?
Yes, there is. Do you want me to tell you about it?
Well, you were getting into your favorite first.
Well, one of my two favorites. One of my favorites. Please excuse me while I look at my computer here, because I have it all written down. One of my favorites is the Arica monster. I'm probably totally slaughtering that word. I like to call it just the Chilean Velociraptor. Now, I've only been able to find one report really about this thing, and that comes from an article on ufoinfo.com. So I guess there is a link to your people there, Ishi.
But yet, this story really made the rounds back in the 90s.
Well, it's weird that it made the rounds. In the 90s?
Yeah. Or was this after?
No, this is 2000. The first mention of it was in this article on UFO Info in 2004.
Okay,
And
because
then-
I know that after Jurassic Park, there were lots of Velociraptor sightings.
Oh, there were. The one you're probably thinking of is the one in Australia.
Okay.
The one that I believe the Aboriginals saw.
Right.
No, this one was in a single article in 2004, and then nobody brought it up again until the Sci-Fi Channel did a show on it for Destination Truth, and Animal Planet did a show on it for Lost Tapes, both in 2009, which tells me that the owners of both of those channels, which I believe was Turner, were really scraping the bottom of the barrel, happened to find this article from 2004 and said, great, let's make a show on it for both places. And what they interviewed a woman named Carmen Diaz about what I'm about to regale you with. Now, I Googled Carmen because I wanted to find out more about her. Could this be fake? Could this be real? Any background about her at all. And the only thing that I could find is her interviews on both of these TV shows and porn sites.
You think it's the same woman?
No.
You think that Carmen's a cam girl along with a witness to Velociraptors?
That would get a lot of hits, wouldn't it? I mean, think of all those videos of the stripping T-Rex.
So it would be thought and Velociraptor expert?
It would be the thought velociraptor. Anyway, so I did not get to see both of these episodes because at the time I only had access to Netflix. I didn't have access to the other streaming services that the other episodes were on, but I did attempt to watch it just to get an idea. And okay, so this is from my blog from way back then. What happened in the desert has oh wait, sorry. According to ufoinfo.com, in 2004, Dario, I'm going to slaughter this name, Requelme, Hernan Servas, an Army recruitment officer, and Hernan's family were driving through the Arica Desert at night. This is in Chile. This means absolutely no lights except for their headlamps and the moon, when, quote, dinosaur-like creatures ran past their car. Dario described the creatures as, quote, gray, hairless, and having very noticeable thighs. I love that that's what he noticed. Apparently, they didn't have big titties, so I guess your people weren't interested.
The dinosaur, you have the greatest thighs.
So tell me, are reptoids really into, like, are they thigh men, and that's why grays are breast men? Is that the deal?
That later.
Okay. Yeah. Hernan said, quote, one walked by, very similar to a dinosaur or a lizard running on two legs. He went on to commend his friends for his driving skills, as Hernan's wife was screaming and panicking so badly that Dario nearly went off the road. According to both TV shows, these animals were supposed to be about 6 feet tall and have short, stubby arms. They are shown with 3 toes and razor-sharp teeth, fitting the description of what we see as a velociraptor, specifically the one featured in the movies in Jurassic Park. Let's see.
Now, the fun thing about the Velociraptor in Jurassic Park that everyone keeps seeing, the Velociraptor isn't actually the Velociraptor.
No,
they decided to switch names because The Velociraptor had a cool name, but they're only 3 feet tall. And the scary ones that were called the Velociraptors are really called Deinonychus.
Yes.
Doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
Then I have something 6 feet tall, looks gray at night with noticeable thighs, running past a car filled with panicky people in the pitch black with only headlamps for lights. Well, it could just be a bunch of llamas. Long neck, skinny long legs that could be misinterpreted for arms, very noticeable hindquarters, and with their ears back, they could look saurian, but to somebody who is freaking out. Well, it's either that or they're all making it up because no other sightings of a dinosaur have ever been made in that area. And considering this is a place that tourists like to go and used to have a mining colony, you can't argue that people don't get out there much. So there you go. There's the Chilean Velociraptor.
I thought you said that one of the things was he was adamant that he'd hit a raptor.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he was also completely pissed drunk.
Yeah. Okay. Nothing that I read said that he was drunk, but now I didn't put it in this write-up because I didn't have time to do so. But in my research for that particular incident, it's very obvious that many of the people in that car were drunk, if not all of them. And one of these creatures slammed into the side of their car, and that was part of the reason why the woman was flipping out and panicking, and why the driver nearly went off the road. So
remember, if your insurance company asks how the hell you got that dent the night you were out drunk driving, you just tell them it was a Velociraptor. Okay, so we've got some comments here.
Ishi, do you still have contacts with any grays that could pick up the deer person at Twitch and analyze for study and experimentation?
No, we're only trying to harvest genes that we want or help you guys out by implanting genes. And no, the only thing we could do for Deer Boy is sterilize him. All right, this is an idea.
Probably thank you. Reverend Ryder, how much to have a gray fly by Deer Boy's house and disintegrate him?
Now that might be able to be arranged.
Okay, let's pass around the collection plate. Let's get those funds
we
going.
We don't use it much, but we could fire up the particle beam.
Heat up the death ray. Damien to Cesario, have you not heard of the Monster Girl Encyclopedia?
I haven't either, but that sounds pretty interesting.
I have a feeling it goes along with the Monster Girl fetish that's around,
which is pretty bizarre but interesting. But honestly,
it's bizarre.
Well, that makes more sense. I can get that. It's the people who want to bone things like a deer.
No, maybe it's because it's just been around long enough. The concept of normal run-of-the-mill furries, I'm okay with. It's Deer Boy himself as an individual that drives me nuts.
He's not a furry. He's an animalkin.
Oh, yes, exactly. He's an animalkin. Furries at least are honest about what they are.
Well, furries are kind of cartoon character fetishists, aren't they? And they are outright open that they know it's just for fun. None of them are claiming that they have the soul of a deer, right?
No, not to my knowledge. And and in
maybe Deer Boy needs an exorcist.
In defense of Catman, I would take Catman over Deer Boy any day for the sheer fact that Catman so truly believed that he was a tiger that he, completely mauled his face and, made it look like a cat's face and was doing everything he possibly could to make that dream a reality. It's almost on the level of people who have the limb thing where they don't feel like a limb belongs to them and they need to have it cut off. It's taking it to such an extreme, but willing to do that. Deer Boy is just looking for fucking, attention. He doesn't believe in jack shit other than pay attention to me. I'm better than you.
I think, dear boys, what happens is when you're a spoiled rich kid whose parents get you a job. Where was it? Where did he get a job at?
Twitch.
No. He got the job at Twitch because he worked for another more.
The anti-defamation.
Oh, yeah, that's his. I can't imagine the ADL just hired him. That'd have been a, hey, could you give my moron son a job?
He showed up with antlers and said, "Look, I have a giant rack. You should hire me."
And they were very disappointed.
Yeah. That's his problem. He's such a pussy. He did not have a big rack. If he did, then maybe people would take him seriously.
So here we go.
Besides the fact that most deer, only the males have them. Anyway, Ishi is Men in Black considered a biopic to the rest of the universe. The original, not the reboot. Oh my fucking God, there's a reboot? God, I'm so out of touch. Also, was anyone in that movie an alien?
Was anyone in that movie an alien?
Was anybody who was part of making that movie or featured in that movie an actual alien?
Well, we haven't really gotten into this, but when we get around to talking about the reptilians, reptoids, whatever the hell you want to call it, Sleestacks.
Yeah, Sleestacks.
Gorn. Gorn. Okay, now the thing when you ask, was anybody in that movie an alien? Now you see the problem is about 50% of Hollywood are all reptiles. They're reptilians, okay? And it doesn't help that you never notice how suddenly they just change. You get this decent person like what was that idiot who played the girl in Hunger Games?
Oh, yes, her Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence. She was a sweet young thing. She was nice. She was innocent. She had a good sense of humor. She got that Academy Award, got popular. Then suddenly the entire personality changed. She suddenly started getting really kind of weird, skinny, and her boobs started to disappear. She got to be a real cunt. Started wearing all this gaudy makeup and jewelry and was a real cunt. Did I mention a real cunt? Well, what happens, unfortunately, is a lot of these up-and-comers, once they really take off, a reptile will think, I want that. They'll grab the person, eat them, and then morph into that person and take their place. That's what happened to Jennifer Lawrence. So, any number. It's probably happened to Will Smith, for far as I know.
No, Will Smith's a Scientologist.
Oh, yeah, okay. ADL. Oh, okay. So Dear Boy belonged to the ADL.
Ah.
Oh. Well, I get what? I guess that's almost as good as the Southern Poverty Law Center. As for is Men in Black a documentary? I would say in so much as They Live was a documentary.
I thought They Live was closer to the truth.
Well, yeah. Okay, but it was Hollywoodized and more made for entertainment. Definitely had some B-movieisms in it for fun. Thing about the MIBs that you've got to understand is originally, and still within government, MIBs, Men in Black, are literally any of those guys who are in black, wear sunglasses, purely for the purpose of blending into the background and becoming unidentifiable. You just don't think about them being there. It's kind of weird. The sunglasses, the black suit, you don't notice them. Your brain just tells you don't look. And MIBs could be mafiosos coming to threaten you. MIBs could be the FBI or the CIA or paid assassin. But over time, the specific MIB you're talking about came about when first, this will really disappoint you. The original MIBs were college pranksters who just really liked harassing people who had said they'd seen aliens and UFOs. But then the U.S. government that, there's a mythology being built up around those guys. Let's do it for real. Just to confuse the situation.
Well, tell the story. I mean, you've shared this with me.
Which one?
The one where they would go to people's houses and ask for weird things.
Oh yeah. They'd show up to people's houses wearing weird colognes so they smelled strange, driving old cars. And they'd go in and they'd sit down with the person and start asking them all these questions and staring at the weird. And I remember they would confiscate weird items. There was like one point where they disassembled a ballpoint pen. They kept putting it back together and disassembling it, acting baffled.
And wasn't it?
There was another one where there was a guy who'd said he'd seen a UFO and he worked at a library in a small Midwestern town. And this weird guy dressed in black came in the middle of the night. He broke into the library because the guy was going through the stacks, went up to him, kind of stared at him, laughed like a madman, and then jumped out the window.
So did he see a UFO?
I don't know, probably. I don't.
So it wasn't one of your people. Or would you know?
Just because I am a gray doesn't mean we know all of each other.
Really? You don't all like? I thought you said you were telepathic.
Well, that doesn't mean we all know each other. I mean, do all Asians know each other?
What's the distance of your telepathy?
20 feet.
Oh, okay. So it's not like you can't talk to someone on the other side of the planet?
No.
That's what cell phones are for, right?
All right, let's see.
Squeaky Pickle. She turned into a self-righteous feminist bitch.
Well, who do you think thought up that stupid ideology? The reptilians.
Mm-hmm.
This was one of their wonderful inventions, just to completely screw you guys up. In fact, you would be shocked if you study feminism, you'll find a very, very weird connection that it goes back to a number of things. One, the temperance movement. Remember, no booze, no fun?
Mm-hmm.
The original Karens? And the temperance movement became the suffragists and the suffragettes. But what a lot of people don't know is the proto-New Age movement and spiritualist movement was also a key ingredient to the initial early days of feminism, and has always been there in its DNA. And it was always full of that weird shit. And what was the Meditation Mountain? What is the...
Yeah, Meditation Mountain in Ohio.
That weird...
Ohio.
Weird religious nut that supposedly is the perfect enlightened one.
Yeah.
Which was essentially...
the original Indigo Child.
Yeah, exactly. And he was purely a creation of a British feminist who prior to that had been a communist who failed at that. So then moved on to feminism. And then she met this kid in India and started banging him when he was like 15. And her and this other guy decided they were going to turn him into their prophet, and ended up setting up a weird cult in what is it?
What's Oxnard?
Oxnard, yeah. Up on Meditation Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you look into this and you find them all connected, and you know what it comes back to? They're fucking reptiles.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And you know why reptiles are so into making everyone into this whole trans thing? Gender doesn't exist. It's because they're shapeshifters and they can switch genders back and forth, and they want us to get used to it.
Well, really, if you look at nature, reptiles don't need to shift back and forth. I mean, all they have to do is just pull in their dicks, and it kind of looks like a vag. You ever see a crocodile?
What the hell's wrong with you? Seriously.
You ever see that episode of the Croc Hunter where he's sexing the alligators?
Are you trying to fuck with me? What the fuck's wrong with you?
Hey,
what the hell am I hearing? You're telling me that a croc can pull its dick in and it looks like cooch.
Yes, it does. You have to stick your finger in order to feel the willy.
Who the fuck would want to do that?
The Croc Hunter.
He's dead.
I know he's dead. But it wasn't from a croc.
What was it from?
It was from a stingray.
Was he trying to feel its willy?
No, actually, he didn't know it was there. The story is actually kind of tragic. He always was scared of the ocean. That's why he hated doing shows in it. And Squeaky Pickle says, "I'm not racist. I have a gray friend."
Well, you're a dog, so it's okay.
Yeah. But no, Croc Hunter, he actually told the crew that he was scared to go in the water because he said, that's how I'm going to die, is in the water. I mean, true story. They did an ocean show. He was swimming too close to the reef, and there happened to be a stingray on the ground. It freaked out when he swam over it, and it stabbed him right in the heart.
Now, the thing is we all expected a croc to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
But further than that, we all expected Steve-O to die at some point.
No, Steve-O got clean, got religion. He still performs, but
he got religion.
He got religion.
What religion?
Christian.
Oh, he's a Christian, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we're a multinational nation, so yeah.
No, very true. When people usually say someone got religion, usually that means they found Jesus, or at least from my experience. If I'm wrong, then sorry. Mad Ginger. It's like us gingers don't all know each other. Very true. But I have noticed that the second we meet each other, we usually will like hug it out, or or instant friends. Anime acid trip. So does that mean Alex Jones was right?
In a way. It's amazing how many people turn out to be right. Hunter S. Thompson, we all thought he was kidding.
Some frogs can change their genders. Fish changed their genders. Is it sheep's heads? Yeah, sheep's heads start off. Sheep's heads and some other species start off as male because they're young and no, okay. They start off as female, and then once they pass their egg laying years, then they turn male, and then they go on like fuck frenzies.
So, kind of like confused teenage girls?
Pretty much, yeah.
So, anyway, Mothman.
Only no abortion. Mothman, yes. Tell us about Mothman.
Well, as we've heard, I'm sure, over the recent years, Mothman has become very, very popular.
I love how the statue of him looks like the scientist character from Ninja Turtles when he turned into a giant fly?
Really?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mothman is actually a very interesting story when you hear it told. Richard Keel's book, The Mothman Prophecies, or not Richard Keel, Jesus. Wow, I'd see that. Yeah, that would be great. Richard Keel.
I would be all over that.
John Keel. No relation to Richard.
No.
Richard Keel played Jaws in the Bond films.
He was also Ega. He also played an alien puppy.
You read John Keel's book, and it's quite an interesting tale, and it seems like there's a lot to it. Until you see the interviews with the actual people that Keel had interviewed, and you realize that the author was very, very kind in rearranging their grammar and sentences. And it just kind of falls apart.
Well, when you actually hear the recordings, right?
Or you see a lot of these people are still alive. It happened in the 60s.
Oh, true.
And they're not really all there. And, there were all these claims of, weird phone calls and, this weird creature terrorizing everyone. And he is an interdimensional being, as I said in the description.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nothing all that sinister. He really is just a cosplayer who really likes Batman, who doesn't quite realize how terrifying he looks to the rest of you.
Dude, so the Tick was real? He's really Arthur? Wait, Arthur's real?
Kinda. It's like an interdimensional being. That's why he seems flat. He's actually only 2-dimensional, not 3.
Oh, he's Johnny Paper.
Yeah, but he was kind of a fan of the old Batman TV show, and
so he ran.
Really, there's no deeper conspiracy. I'm sorry.
No. What about the bit of him flying?
Well, he can fly.
He can fly?
He makes a high-pitched noise, and it causes his entire form to vibrate enough that it can pick up and glide, self-propel.
That's cool.
Like you haven't.
That's not what vibrates. JC, we met a woman from Point Pleasant, and when we mentioned the Mothman, she rolled her eyes at us.
Look, she has no fucking right to roll her eyes at you. That town has gone out of its way to make sure that that story does not die. They've got a goddamn parade and a statue in it. You know, that would be like somebody from Roswell just rolling their eyes and you say, oh, so you want the flying saucer place?
Actually, it's amazing how many of these small towns have parades and, like cryptid days, depending.
What was it? Lake Champlain has the Champ monster.
Oh, Champ is just the tip of the iceberg. Really, I was amazed at how many lake monsters. I would say every single one of the Great Lakes has at least one, if not two, or more than that, cryptids living in it. And the small towns around where supposedly it was sighted always have like a 4th of July festival or something in the summer to celebrate this monster and bring the tourists.
Hey, doesn't Japan have one or two of those?
Yeah, Ishi. Ishi.
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's his name.
Yeah.
No relation.
No relation. I would want. He's your elder brother.
No relation. No.
Well, give him.
So
he's big.
You are really trying tonight, aren't you, to fuck with me?
What? I got off work and then we sat down with the microphone, so I'm a little punchy.
Oh yeah, let's talk about yokai. Yokai, I really like yokai.
Yokai are awesome. Yokai are great.
Wait, before we get to yokai, let's go back a step. JC has this I've got to look into.
Lake Erie has a giant sentient cloth of trash and perch. Okay, I have a Lake Erie.
This sounds like what, Fern Gully or Captain Planet episode?
What, the sentient trash?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound like it. Of
course, the smog monster from Godzilla was kind of that too.
JC, do you happen to remember the name of that creature? Because I think I have it in some of my research.
Okay, yokais versus cryptids. Yokai are kind of interesting because, in a sense, they are cryptids, but a bit more. They fall somewhere between cryptid and urban legend and folklore all at the same time. I mean, urban legends in general are modern folklore, but yokai, they're, I guess, the Japanese equivalent to goblins and monsters and the boogeyman. Essentially, it's creatures that aren't spirits, but yet they're still an animist creation, as the Japanese is very much an animist culture. So most of the yokai on some level embody something, be it simply Tofu Boy, the embodiment of tofu. And what does Tofu Boy do?
Tofu Boy, I think he skips down the street with a bowl full of tofu, or actually it's one of those tofu holders. Now, there's two different versions of him. There's one version, which I only recently heard about, where he's actually kind of mean and he does something in which you die involving tofu. The other one is that he asks you if you want some, and if you say yes, he gives it to you and disappears. So you have like this magic tofu.
And what was there also a gyoza? What's the one that runs across the?
Oh, the gyoza sprite is from Dorohedoro.
No, there really is.
Oh yeah, you're right. There is
Which one is it?
A gyoza sprite.
Yeah.
It's a kitchen sprite, and it's for good food in general. I believe so.
But then there are also other yokai, and technically the last recorded yokai of the came out of the modern era, and that's the slit-mouth woman, which I think has more in common with an urban legend, which is the woman who was abused by her boyfriend and slit down her face, and so she walks around with a COVID mask on.
Yeah,
essentially, and she'll follow young women and then pull the mask off and you see her mouth has.
Well, no, she asks you several different questions.
Yeah.
And it's first, if she'll ask you, do you think I'm pretty? And if you say no, she'll just kill you outright. If you say yes, then she takes the mask off and you see that she's slit from ear to ear with this giant gaping mouth. Or sometimes she's got the inverted mouth where it goes from her nose to her chin instead, depending. But usually it's the slit ear to ear. And then she asks again, do you think I'm pretty? If you say no, then she kills you. And if you say yes, then she slits your mouth ear to ear. I've also heard that she gives you what's it called? A Colombian necktie.
Oh, nice. But this one, I believe, was an incarnation of the late 50s, early 1960s, and was the first yokai to be proliferated through modern media. Specifically, radio is how it spread across Japan. And you had groups of women wanting to be escorted everywhere for a while, living in fear that the slit-mouthed woman would come for them, which was kind of interesting. Now, somebody here has mentioned probably the most popular of yokai, and that is the kappa. And if you're familiar with kappa sushi, the cucumber sushi, yes, it is named after the kappa, because that is the kappa's favorite kind of sushi. And the kappa is kind of this weird frogman creature, but the top of his head is open and his brain is there floating in water.
Mm-hmm.
And he is kind of like a troll that lives under a bridge or lives in a lake. And he's kind of an asshole, really. I mean, he'll get out and fart in your general direction to offend you. Or he'll stand in front of bridges and want to wrestle you. And the only two ways to get rid of him is either to tip him over and have all the water fall out of his head, and then he'll have to jump back in the lake. Or you give him kappa sushi.
Is it you give him kappa sushi, or I thought you just give him cucumbers?
Maybe it's just cucumbers. I forget. But
Doesn't
yeah,
he
there
stink?
are. Yeah, he does stink. And well, like I said, he farts at people. And yes, there are hundreds and hundreds of yokai.
What's really cool is in the 1800s, I believe, there was a trend in Japan where a lot of the artwork that was being produced all depicted various yokai. That was the trend to do.
Really?
Is depictions of yokai. And that's where that famous image of the giant skeleton, the one that you got for me, that's it came out of that era. So, Toho have a lot of yokai girls from Anime Acid Trip. I found what I have written on the Lake Erie monster. Endless Nocturne. Kappas can also suck out your soul through your butt. So your farts are your soul?
They're kind of lewd.
Yes.
Kappa are specifically kind of lewd.
No wonder they have beaks. You got to get in there.
So, okay.
So, though I did not find the monster that I have for Lake Erie is not the living trash pile like from Fraggle Rock, but what I have is called Bessie that lives in Lake Erie, and it's thought to be a 40-foot long snail that is gray in color. Sightings started in 1793 and have increased in frequency over the years. Two brothers in 1817 swore they saw a similar creature about 20 feet long dying on the shore, but the body disappeared before they could show somebody. Bessie is also reported in the local newspaper in 1892 as fighting some, quote, unseen foe by the crew of a ship before looking at them viciously and disappearing. Sightings of the creature continue through 1993. No real evidence has been produced to suggest that Bessie is real, despite the current $100,000 reward for its capture.
Now, okay.
JC, Japan has a lot of yokai that haunt bathrooms. Yeah, they do. They have a thing with public bathrooms.
Kind of like Zombass?
Exactly.
You know what I'm talking about. That movie? Zombie Ass, or is it Zombass or something? I think it's Zombie Ass.
I remember Zombie
Where the
Ass.
evil spirits come out of the toilet. It's the Japanese.
Well, I know there's maybe they renamed it because I know there's one that's Evil Toilet.
Well, no, this was by the guy who did Robo Geisha.
Oh,
And it was too
okay.
gross. I couldn't watch it.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The ideas were clever and funny, but it was too gross. I could not get through it.
It's up there with Evil Sushi.
No, Evil Sushi is just funny.
Neostar. Kappa showed up in Devilman as a water apparition.
Well, that's kind of what he is to a degree, but he's solid. He's not non-corporeal. Now,
isn't there a Kappa in Yakuza Apocalypse?
I don't think so.
What movie was it that we saw that had a Kappa in it?
It might have been somebody, but it was like a half-assed sort of Kappa costume, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like in the spirit of.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Kappas love anal. Just anime acid trip.
Aww.
Anyway, interestingly enough, you never did finish. Yeah, exactly. Neon Star.
Or Robo Geisha.
Robo Geisha is great. It has a slow second act, but that ending is amazing. That third act.
I'll admit, Neostar, if Ishi wasn't watching it with me, I probably would have turned Robo Geisha off in the second act because it takes forever to get through. They're all funny jokes, but altogether, just
no. The second act starts to become filler.
Yeah.
But that third act.
Oh my god, that third act's amazing.
It's a giant robot pagoda.
Yeah, it's a transforming Gundam almost.
Yeah. Anyway, a modern example of a yokai in the West would be the Slender Man. And the reason I say it is the Slender Man isn't really quite a spirit, but he isn't really quite a corporeal being. He's somewhere in between. And what's interesting is that unlike most urban legends, you can trace the Slender Man to his very beginning. We know the person, the place, the date, and the time that he was created because it's online. Now, from a skeptical standpoint, if I were to be a skeptic, but of course I'm out of the human suit, so I don't have to pretend. But a skeptical standpoint would be is that clearly this is just a cultural zeitgeist phenomena where an idea takes hold within our cultural shared collective, our media, and it kind of spreads on its own until we do start getting, as in Ghost in the Shell, a standalone complex where various people all start exhibiting the same behavior, unaware of each other because they've all been exposed to the same idea. Now, the flip side of that would be the concept of a semiotic ghost. And a semiotic ghost is when it's a theory that the idea becomes so real to a culture for a time that the thing becomes real when it needs to be, but isn't real at any other point. All right.
Neostar. I went through a brief period of watching Japanese B movies, but I got squeamish and couldn't finish a few of them.
I understand.
The Mad Ginger, like Bloody Mary?
Absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm. Actually, I would say Bloody Mary counts as an urban legend.
Oh, she totally is an urban legend. I think she's one of the, at least the earliest most children are exposed to.
But I've heard that Mark Waid, if you look into if you're in a comic store and you turn the lights off in a bathroom, in the comic store bathroom, and look into the mirror and say Mark Waid's name 3 times, he will show up and tear your store up screaming that you've got to fix this now. Okay, let's see what we got here.
Okay, what you were talking about is basically the plot of a recent anime called Inspector. Problem is getting slow and boring.
Another good film that kind of tackles the concept of a semiotic ghost would be Paranoia Agent.
Oh, yeah, totally.
The little slugger and, oh, God, what was the dog's name?
Moromi.
Moromi definitely fall into the category of a semiotic ghost or spirit.
Mm-hmm.
where again it's the cultural zeitgeist that brings it about. Well, we are going on 1 hour here, so we're going to close this down unless you've got any questions for the gray and the sexy woman next to me. So, well, if Kronk's the mad ginger, are you the hot ginger?
Oh, I'm the fiery redhead.
Okay.
Nothing against being a ginger, but my hair is not quite ginger.
Well, you know, that's the kind of thing. Yeah, you don't quite have the red carrot hair. You've got copper.
Yeah.
You've got copper hair, and I don't think you really have enough freckles.
Well,
You've got a hint of freckling.
I don't spontaneously combust in the sun. I actually tan.
Well, yeah, you know, but when I met you, you never went outside, so you were paper white when I met you.
True. Very true.
You're not quite paper white anymore.
No,
I think your Filipino and some of your Latin blood saved you on that on that point.
Yeah. I'm a mutt.
Well, you're an American.
Yes,
aren't we all? You know, if you're a mutt, you're an American. That's kind of what it means in a lot of ways.
Better a mutt than a mule. Anyway, anime acid trip. Mark Wade is the type of guy to complain his Burger King chicken sandwich has lettuce and mayo. Tana's thighs. A semiotic ghost. Is that like a tulpa or thought form?
Thought form. I'm not familiar with tulpa. I came across the term first in believe it or not, a William Gibson story back in the 80s called The Gernsback Continuum, which is actually a fun story. Well worth reading. Okay, here we go. Another one from Neon Star.
I'm ashamed to admit it. I didn't understand paranoia. God, I can talk. Agent in my youth. Hopefully I can understand it now.
Well, I can understand that being a little hard to grasp. One of the key problems is that it really does embody the animist view of basis of Japanese culture. Us coming from more of a materialistic worldview, where our ghosts and our gods and angels are more abstract. Or there's definitely a kind of a dividing line that there's the celestial and then there's the earthly. It doesn't quite translate as well, but you know, when you live in a culture where there's a spirit for everything, including ideas, it comes across a little clearer. But really, it comes down to it was capturing the paranoia of the new millennium after 9/11 and just the way the world was suddenly went from very stable to seemingly out of control. And you were getting these kind of stories across Japan, all being affected by essentially these one urban legend that became two, that took on a corporeal form when necessary.
Well, also, then on top of that, you have worked in the legend of the hungry ghost.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that, spoiler alert, that Moromi turns into a hungry ghost, needing to devour everything and never satisfied. Cesario, opinions on how cryptids were portrayed in Fallout 76.
Didn't play it.
Nope.
I heard all the bad things and I just didn't want to touch it.
Yeah, same here.
All right. Well, we're kind of wearing down. We're going to make this a short show. I realize an hour was our typical show, but now we're doing 2 hours usually.
But I'm going to leave you with this. Next time we talk about cryptids, I will go into detail about the Congo brontosaur and the Kickstarter that was launched to go find the damn thing.
Oh, we went off track, didn't we? We were going to cover those.
Yeah.
Also, feel free to suggest episodes. You want me to talk about tall whites, reptilians, more stuff about grays, UFO sightings, specific events, any other weird shit? This is what this show's for. Let's have fun. So thank you. Good night. Please join us tomorrow for...
Yes. Tomorrow we have the writer's room with the Lord Buddy. And
I believe Joe's going to be with us again.
Oh, wonderful.
But we'll be, let me get the exact name so I don't mess this up.
Or John.
Is it John? Look, I am not very awake. Okay, and we will be interviewing tomorrow Adam Lane Smith, author of Gideon Ira, Knight of the Blood Cross, which is post-apocalyptic sci-fi.
Yeah, it's a post-apocalyptic crusader. Weaving a path of blood and destruction for the Lord. It's awesome.
It is essentially, imagine a Mad Max apocalypse mixed with a biblical apocalypse.
Yes.
So you've got Mad Max with demons.
How can you go wrong with that?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
All right. Take it. Xenosexuality. I guess since that's what we are, we should probably do an episode on that.
I thought it was called xenophile. Or is that someone who wants to fuck a xenomorph?
Good night, everybody. You all have a good night.
Good night.